Hi, welcome to Fish Poker. This is Erica. I really love poker because I love it when they go all in on me because I'm such a loose player.
Well, thank you, Erica, for that great intro. I'm glad to know that there's babes out there who play poker, and well, if you're a babe and you play poker, good job. Anyways, I want to go ahead and take this time to say Happy Mother's Day to all my beautiful mothers out there. You guys are the best. You guys deserve the world and much more. Hopefully you guys had a great time on your day. And to all my boys out there who are a dad and a mom, you know, there's a lot of people out there pulling in a double shift, and my hat goes off to you guys. I know that's gotta be really challenging. Hopefully you guys are having a great week. I had a great week. I went ahead and I went to Irwindale Drag Strip. Every Thursday they have these drag races, which are legal. They're not illegal. You just pay to get in. You could be a spectator or you can race your car. It's up to you whether you have a car to race or not. Well, without any further ado, let's get to our poker hands.
So we get this game started and everybody buys in for about 50 bucks except Moneybags over here who buys in for 100. Anyways, I'm under the gun and I look down at Queen Jack offsuit, and I've been card dead for about 10 hands now and I'm a little impatient. So I go ahead and fire off a massive raise. I go ahead and put out 2 bucks and it folds all the way down to the dealer. The dealer calls, small blind calls, big blind calls, and we are 4 ways to a flop. The flop is 9 queen deuce, and we go ahead and hit our top pair with a pretty good kicker, and our small blind opponent goes ahead and takes the lead and fires off $3. Big blind calls, I go ahead and call, and the button goes ahead and calls, and we are 4 ways to a turn. The turn is a 4. And unless anybody had pocket 4s, I'm being crushed, but that's very unlikely because our small blind now checks and our big blind checks, and no checking from me. I go ahead and fire 6 bucks. Our opponent in the button gets out of the way, but our small blind calls and our big blind calls, and we are 3 ways to a river. The river's a deuce. And at first I thought this was a scary card, but after the small blind and the big blind both check to me, I realize I have the best hand and I have to bet for value. I put out 10 bucks out there and our small blind goes ahead and takes a few before she goes ahead and makes the call, and our fish on the big blind goes ahead and calls us as well. And we show our cards. Our queen is good with our jack kicker, and our opponent's just mugged. They don't even show their hand, and we go ahead and scoop up a great pot. In this hand, I look down at King 7 offsuit on the big blind. Under the gun limps, and then our opponent under the gun +1 goes ahead and fires off 3 bucks, which it folds around to the big blind who makes the call. I make the call, and our opponent under the gun is priced in, so he goes on and he makes the call as well, and we are 4 ways to a flop. The flop is King 7 Jack. Hell freaking yeah, we go ahead and flop 2 pair and we're feeling great. Our opponent on the big blind checks, I check, under the gun checks. We all check to the original raiser who fires off a continuation bet of 6 bucks. Our opponent on the big blind goes ahead and folds, and I go for the good old check raise. I reach for chips and I fire off $16. UTG gets out of the way, and our aggressor over there goes ahead and pays off the remainder 10 bucks, and we're heads up to a turn. The turn is a 5, and I'm okay with the amount of money in the pot already, and I've seen our aggressor go ahead and chase big draws for big money, so I go ahead and let it rip. I go all in, and he folds. We go ahead and get a healthy stack, and we are feeling even greater. For this next hand, I want to show you guys how easy it is to win at poker. It's easy. It's like taking candy from a baby. There's a button straddle, the blind calls, the big blind calls, and some other dude to my right goes ahead and calls, and I go ahead and bump it up to 10 bucks. Everybody folds, and I take a free $8. That's $8, man. I know that's probably not a lot to you guys, but $8 is $8. That's like a gallon of gas in California right now. In this next hand, I look down at Ace King suited. I'm telling you guys, this game's so easy. I go ahead and raise it up to 350, and it goes ahead and folds around to Moneybags over here, who makes the call. And our opponent on the big blind goes ahead and gets froggy and raises us to $12. Now, we have a choice of either re-raising him or just flatting. I decided to just flat because I don't feel like putting in all my money with this hand because I still got a player behind. So I go ahead and just flat. Our opponent just flats, and we're 3 ways to a flop. The flop is 3-4 queen. Really good flop for us. Really good flop for us. We got some options now. We got a lot of options. Crap. Our freaking opponent goes all in for about $40. And now we're reduced to only 3 options. We can either just call, we can go all in, or we can fold. Definitely not folding this hand, and I don't feel like jamming on this hand because we still got a player behind that has about $1 million behind. But he goes ahead and folds, exposing one of my outs. We flip over and our opponent has another one of my outs. And well, it's prayer time. Sweet baby Jesus, I know you can hear me. I come to you as a humble peasant, asking for a measly spade. And if you go ahead and grant me this spade or king, I swear I will never ever curse in my life again. Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry. I got out of hand, but you didn't give me a spade, sweet baby Jesus. I really need a spade or a king. We are officially on tilt. For this next stupid hand, I look down at 5-3 offsuit on the big blind. The under the gun player limps in, and Moneybags over here goes on and puts in a bet of $3. Middle position lady goes ahead and calls, and it folds all the way around to the small blind, who makes the call. And well, it's only $2 more to me, and I know that if I call these $2, our opponent under the gun is going to go ahead and call as well because he's going to be priced in. And well, that's exactly what happens. I call, he calls, and we are 5 ways to a flop. The flop is 3-10-8. I know it's a little bit hard to see because there's some sexy monkey hands in the way, but anyways, hold on. Ding! There we go. 3-10-8. It checks around to the original aggressor, who fires off $5. Middle position goes ahead and calls the $5. Our opponent on the small blind calls the $5. And even though I'm not too happy with this, I'm getting a great price. So I go ahead and call as well and float one out. And our opponent under the gun goes ahead and folds. And now we're 4 ways to a turn. The turn is another 8. And that slows down action because everybody checks, including the original aggressor. We get a free river, which is great because it's another 3. We fill up on the river. We got 3s over 8s. And well, it checks to us and no checking here. We go ahead and fire off $15, hoping to get called by an ace high. And our fish on the small blind calls us with ace high. And we take this pot. For this next hand, I look down at 8-10 offsuit. And I normally would raise with this hand because I like it. But in this situation, I'm out of position. I'm under the gun, but I still want to see a flop. So I go ahead and I limp in. I limp in with the hopes that nobody puts in a raise. And well, thank you, baby Jesus. Nobody raised. We got 5 players to the flop, including the small blind who just called and the big blind who just checked. The flop is 9-5-10. We go ahead and flop top pair with a mediocre kicker. But there's also a flush draw out there. Then there's also a straight draw out there to go with the flush draw. So I go ahead and make it about a little bit over half pot. I bet $3.50 in hopes of taking the pot right there and then, but no. Our opponent in the cutoff goes ahead and calls, everybody else folds, and we are heads up to a turn. The turn is an 8, which is a blessing in disguise because we do hit our 2 pair, but the flush gets there and the straight gets there. That doesn't seem to stop me because I go ahead and bet $5 and I get snap called. The river's an ace of clubs, which makes things even worse for us. 4 to a flush on the board, and we give up. We check it, but our opponent also checks it, and she exposes pocket sixes with one of the sixes being a club, and she beats us with her flush. On this next hand, I look down at 9-7 offsuit in middle position. Once again, there's a straddle on the button, which our opponent on the small blind gladly puts in the rest of her $1.50. Big blind goes ahead and puts that extra buck, and it folds to the under the gun +2, goes ahead and calls it $2, comes back around to me. I call, and the person in the cutoff also calls, and we are 6 ways to a flop. The flop is 6 deuce 10. We flop absolutely nothing but a gut shot, but fortunately for us, everybody checks and we get to see a free turn. The free turn is a 5, which helps us in absolutely no way, shape, or form, but it does get checked around, and I'm gonna take a stab at it. I put out $4, and the only person who calls us is the person on the button, and we are heads up to a river. The river's a 10, which is a great card because I know my opponent didn't hit that. I know my opponent has absolutely nothing, and I'm really confident that I could get him off his hand. I go ahead and fire a bet of $9, which he snap folds. We go ahead and take this nice-sized pot with nothing but a bluff. Good job, fish. So I really like this bluffing thing I just did. It makes me feel kind of good. So when I get dealt ace-10 under the gun, I go ahead and let it rip. I fire off 3 whole dollars. Everybody folds except the cutoff. The cutoff is the only person who wants to tango with us, and we go heads up to a flop. The flop is 5 king 9, and this is such a great flop for us. We go ahead and flop absolutely nothing, and we're donkeys, we're fishes, and we hate money, so we put out $6. Our opponent, without hesitation, goes ahead and pays us off, and we're heads up to see a turn. The turn is a 10. I think that's a good card for us. I'm not sure. So I go ahead and fire off $6 and see what that does. If our opponent re-raises us, then we're in trouble. She didn't though. She goes ahead and calls the $6 and we're heads up to the river. The river's another 5, and we go ahead and continue with our story that we don't have anything strong, and we put out another $6. Our opponent goes ahead and glances at her cards one last time before she lets them go. So this wasn't 100% of a bluff, but I guess it started off as a bluff, and it turned out I had the winning hand. She showed a 9. So I guess if she would have re-raised us on the flop, we would have had no choice than to let it go ourselves, but that didn't happen. We win, we win, we won.
Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I made a little bit over $250 in profit, minus what I gave the host. It's always good etiquette, guys. You guys don't forget about your hosts. If you guys win, don't be douchebags and just leave without tipping the house. You guys should always be tipping the house. It's a good etiquette. One more thing I'm really excited about before I let you guys go. I went ahead and I purchased the Daniel Negreanu Masterclass. So I'm really excited to go ahead and go through that whole course. Hopefully I can go ahead and improve my game. We can all use a little bit of game improvement in any way, shape, or form. So I'm really excited for that, and I'll go ahead and upload videos of how that progress is going. So you guys stay tuned, and don't forget to hit thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.